Okay, everyone, we are live for Fear Street Live. This is my first Let's Talk video. It's a new series I'm starting. Let me just get all the chat up. And yeah, I'm really pumped about this. It's the first Let's Talk Live I'm doing. I'm doing this because I had such a good reaction from doing it for Handmaid's Tale, where Handmaid's Tale, it was really exciting when we did a live thing talking about the whole season because we had a surprise appearance by Bruce Miller, the showrunner. I didn't even know he was coming, but he came on the chat, which was awesome. So I was like, you know what? I could do this for everything I cover, and if it's something like Fear Street, where it's a trilogy or a show where there's a bunch of episodes, now this is your chance to tell me what you thought, and then we could talk about it, debate it, and then eventually I can get more guests on that will appear. So I'm excited to be doing this. I think there's a lot of hype around these films. I decided after Handmaid's Tale ended to jump into Fear Street and review each movie, but not only that, but just to interview as many people from the cast that I could. So please check those out as well. So, you know, what was so amazing about this trilogy to me is that I felt every different type of score and emotion that I would give out for these films. Like, separately, each film hit a different spot for me. Where the first one, if you look, I gave it an 8.1. I thought it was very average with huge potential. And then, as you saw, the second one, 1978, I loved it. I thought part two was absolutely incredible. And then part three was my least favorite. So it was interesting because in such a different format where you're getting each film each weekend, one after the other, very cool and exciting way to do it. It feels like a release of a show. But I just thought it was surprising that I felt different types of reaction for each one. Like, there wasn't two of them I thought were okay. There wasn't, two of them thought was amazing. What's up, Megan Ford? How you doing? Yeah, so again, leave your comments here. I'll answer anything you guys want me to talk about with Fear Street or anything about me in general. But yeah, so what I was saying was that the first one to me was decent. So we're going to go through all the films. We'll talk about them one by one. Spoilers, obviously for all of them. I've shared my thoughts and reviews, so I kind of want to hear more from you guys. But we'll talk through each film and kind of break down what we liked, didn't like, what could be better, what was perfect. And yeah, I mean, look, just from before this film came out, this series, I thought it had one of the best trailers. That's why I was excited about it, and that they were pushing it as, it being an R.L. Stine property based off the books, that it was going to be rated R. So I think that's what got a lot of people excited, right? Because you see rated R, it gives more people that are adults to come in. What's up, Art? How you doing? Thanks for coming. But it brings in the adults, right? The rated R. So what we see happens is these films kind of teeter in and out of feeling like they're for adults and then feeling more like they're teens, but I did think it was actually a good blend. What's up, Elenia? How you doing? But I think that what got me hyped was the trailer, right? So trailers are really skilled technique in editing, getting people hooked. It's a marketing team that really pulls them off, and they killed it with Fear Street, right? So what I thought was interesting, as someone who was part of the press and reaching out for screeners, was that they seemed not confident at first in how they were releasing the embargoes for the films, but as the reactions came more in for 1 and 2 with really high praise, they, eased up, and those embargoes came a little earlier. And I thought what was interesting, I'm going to go on a little rant here, but what annoys me is about, and this isn't me being bitter about Rotten Tomatoes, but it is, because Rotten Tomatoes is tricky with stuff like this, especially a trilogy like this, because there are people on Rotten Tomatoes, I'm not going to name names, but to me they're not critics in the sense of they don't actually criticize anything in these movies that come out. This isn't just Fear Street, any films, right? They're like fanboys and fangirls of these movies and shows, and they like everything. Like, there's certain people I always see come up on Tomatoes, like, I could go to their history of scores on Tomatoes, they literally don't give anybody a bad review, and they find a way. Like, you'll see the same people praising these films, and then people show, like, oh, they got Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 95, but it's not in touch with the people. You look at the IMDb score of these films or other films with, people always check, and same with shows, because that's where you're getting a real kind of touch on it. And Rotten Tomatoes has just really gotten loose with who they let in, because they're not, again, people necessarily who actually do reviews or critics. They call them reviews, but they're really just praiseworthy fanboy reactions, fangirl reactions. So getting that off my chest, just be careful with Rotten Tomatoes about everything. But I'm ranting. But again, okay, see, Megan Ford, I'm bitter about Rotten Tomatoes, left out of the haters. I saw 1,500 people give it 1 star for movies they admit they didn't watch. Yeah, I hate that too. So anyone who's seen part 1, going into part 1, we knew it was going to be 1994. I liked that the trilogy was going back in time and that it was doing reverse order. I thought that was very intriguing. But with part 1, it was one of those things where they had really good music they picked for that time. You can't go wrong in the opening sequence with having like 9 Inch Nails. And they started to weirdly shove in songs to fit in the beginning here, like I'd mentioned in that scene when we see our main character of Dina on the bus, and it just like all of a sudden jumps to Creep, and then it jumps to something else, and then it jumps to a score. So it was sloppy, a lot of the first movie, but the first movie also effectively had a lot of suspense. And I said this in my review, but I feel like if you haven't seen these films, what's really good about them is any of the suspenseful sequences are all so well done. And that's a credit to the director, Lee Yenyuk. I'm still not sure I say her last name right, but she follows me on Instagram, which is really cool. But, one day maybe she'll let me know how to say her last name. Anyway, but she clearly has a skill at keeping suspense happening effectively and getting you shocked as well. Because a lot of horror movies now in suspense and thriller, they don't do a great job at keeping you kind of interested, or when they have suspenseful sequences, you can time the jump scares, right? Or like, that violin's coming, and then you're like, well, here comes the jump, and then when it happens, you're prepared, where it's always better to catch people off guard. And I think these movies effectively do that. Now, I really think what was smart about the first film was it clearly had the most memorable, kills in it. And Megan, just going on what Megan's saying, the tropiness, how'd you feel about it? Just go into more detail. You mean tropiness of the films, like the first film, or did you feel it was tropey? What did you feel was tropey about it? No, I think that the kills in the first one were memorable, right? Of course, the bread slice kill with Kate, that will go down in history as one of the best, like, gory horror kills. So I do wish they came up with a little more clever kills like that in the other 2 films, but at least they got one out of the trilogy that is epic. So I was happy. I was worried they'd be shying away from doing the rated R stuff, but they didn't. And I thought that was really good about the first film. Now, you could see from the character types in film 1, like the nerdy tech guy, the popular girl that dates a footballer, etc. Yeah, so there was a little bit, of tropiness, and I think they can get away with it because it's, campy. But my biggest concern, so there was characters that worked really well for me and characters that fell flat. So clearly you're talking about a good point with the tropiness, like the brother, right, who is played by Benjamin Flores Jr., which we know from Your Honor. He is the character of Josh. Josh really is your textbook, no pun intended, character who reads from textbooks and is the nerd and kind of is the way out of everything and figures everything out. He's a smart one, right? But he didn't get much depth to his character, and I said I had a problem with him and Dina's relationship where it felt like at the end of that film they forgot they were brother and sister, especially when he kisses Kate. Now, you see a character like him. Another character I also thought was a kind of trope and forced was Simon. Simon's jokes to me were too telegraphed, and everything was try hard with Simon. Like, his whole purpose was the comic relief, but it wasn't like natural comedy. It wasn't great comedy writing for his lines, so it's not, I'm not saying it's the actor's fault. I'm saying it's just the character created itself wasn't great as a comic relief character. But obviously the star of this first film that really became the fan favorite was Kate, who was played by Julia Raywald. So the reason I think a lot of people like Kate too is she is a unique type of character where they also, even though she's not the main character, they gave her character a lot of depth. And I think that's what gravitated towards people. See, Megan loves Kate. But that was one of my main complaints about the first film, was that the main character of Dina did not have enough character depth, where they had mentioned things about her father. We never saw those things, and I think that would have been effective in just getting us to care more about our main lens, our main protagonist here, which I thought didn't really happen. And that's what was interesting about 1666, the third film, was they actually kind of did do that well with Dina, technically Sarah Fear, where they showed stuff with her father. So I thought that would have attached well through the trilogy if they actually touched base with that in the first film. But my point again about why Kate was so effective as a character and popular, she got a great kill. She was always great screen presence, but great lines. Nothing was forced. And you liked her, even though she had flaws. So that's the type of character you want to create, right? So she comes out of this a huge fan favorite. So I think there's an interesting thing that happens where 94 and 66 are very related. They're very having same faces, but it's taking the love story of Dina and Sam, putting it on center stage. So I think that love story was actually better written in 3, but was more interesting in 1, because by the time we hit 3 with it, the weird thing about this trilogy is I think 2 was the best film, but it kind of, it tied well, but it didn't keep up the momentum from 2, where you could almost like skip 2. 2 was to make all this character for Good, Nick Good, and they kind of then left that in the third one and made him the guy who's the villain who's just going to do bad and run after everybody. I saw a big complaint I agreed with, that I wish in the third film we got more explanation of why the Good family tree just kept obeying the father above them. Like they were just replicants of each other. So I would have liked to see, because we did see some good in Nick Good, no pun intended, in the second film. I would have liked to see that transferred. I would have liked to see him have a bigger moment with Ziggy, who plays Gillian Jacobs in present day, and them have kind of some payoff from it. It was beautifully set up in number 2. Now, number 1 had criticisms about people. I'm not too nitpicky about like, oh, they're not feeling like 90s people, or the sets don't feel that way. But I see it hindsight a little bit, but it wasn't like distracting to me. But there was moments like part 2 and the hippie character says, that guy is shagadelic. That was something where I was like, okay, that's Austin Powers. That's something too when you're a writer. You gotta just check on those. Lacey Husky says, you think it's going to be a part 4? Hello, my sister's here, everybody. That's Chrissy Varley. Say hi to Chrissy. She is a member. She's got a badge of her brother. That's a loyal sister. She does YouTube stuff with her fiance, Randy Troy. Check it out on YouTube. She makes appearances on there with him, and she's going to have a channel soon. So eventually we'll be able to, listen. You can listen to someone who's even better at this than me, my sister, when she has her own channel, which will be soon. So, and then I'll fade away. But, N Studios. I finally made it to live. Hello, N Studios. Megan says hi to Chrissy. So, it's funny. Chrissy's here, and she's so loyal. She hasn't even watched these films yet. So she's ready to get spoiled by her brother. That's okay. I think she's okay with spoilers usually anyway. But, so as I was saying, this is where my problems lie, where we have now 3 movies. One's decent, one's amazing to me, and then one's not so great. Now, I think that the thing you can take away from this trilogy is that there's a lot of good, young, fresh faces, actors, actresses that are going to blow up, are already blowing up. But the director here, it's important to find directors in Lee here who she, again, knows how to do a suspenseful sequence, knows how to make you shocked. And they weren't afraid to go there, especially in the first film at the end. But also, the second film, they filmed last, and you could see that it kind of tightened up the mistakes a lot of people had with the other films, including myself. So I think that showed that the director is also willing to get better film to film and learn and improve things and is aware. And I think in any talent you do, if you have self-awareness, you're only going to get better. And there's already raw talent there. Now, I'm wondering from you guys what your favorites of the film were. If you have anything you completely disagree with me about, I'd love to hear it. We can debate it. Megan, no, I want you to be the main commenter here, because you share your thoughts. A lot of people, a little shy. You're not, and I love that about you. But, yeah, I mean, look, so I did interviews with the cast. I always say that it's like an interesting thing I do because I try to keep it church and state, where it's like, okay, like I'm interviewing someone, they're really cool, and I build, even friendships with some of them. In particular, I'm really now, I think Olivia Scott Welch is awesome. She's been really cool to me. We did 2 interviews together. Got one coming out tomorrow. Lacey, I love what you're saying there. I want them to do a backstory of the other killers, especially Ruby Lane. I totally agree. In my interview, see tomorrow with Olivia Welch, who plays Sam, or she plays Hannah as well. Little tidbit, she loves the Milkman character and wants to see more of him, and she wants a part 4, she said. So, trust me, the cast, directors, they're aware of the good reaction, people wanting a 4th film. We get that mid-credit scene, which was huge with the book, because it's giving us hope as fans that, okay, we're going to get something like down the road. Unfortunately, I saw an article that if it was to happen, because they haven't started filming yet, I don't even think writing, not sure about the writing part, but filming, it wouldn't come till like 2023, the earliest, so it would be a little bit of a wait. But what is interesting is you brought up Ruby Lane. I thought the Milkman was cool, but I really was interested when you saw these little snippets of all the killers. This kid with the bat, and what the hell went on there? I think, see, Alenia agrees. I want backstories with other killers too. So we need more of that, right? It's actually set up so well in this trilogy to leave that room, because they give you a little backstory through telling, but they're saving the showing because they could do a separate film. And I think it would be better if for 4 they don't even call it part 4 and they make it like its own thing, kind of like the Conjuring universe does, where it's just the nun. Do one about the Milkman. In your opinion for each movie, how would you scale how scary it is from 1 to 10? I wouldn't say they're scary, Chrissy. I would say they're suspenseful and insane, like thriller, really good sequences like that. It's because they're more slasher. But, I would say 1 is the most gory, disturbing, best sequences of suspense. 2 has really good gore and sequences of suspense. 3, there's 1 disturbing scene, but everything else is pretty light. So that one was disappointing in that sense. Like, that one should have been scary because it was taking place in, the olden times. And it's doing the thing like the Crucible or the Witch. And to me, it didn't really go there enough, where the other 2 did in the slasher category, because those are slasher films, where the third film kind of shied away. You're really good at explaining characters' motives, perspectives. Do you have a background in that type of study? Yeah. So I went to SVA for like a semester, and then I was doing film school there, but then I switched because I wanted to do radio, so I went to Mercy College, and I did film, media broadcast studies, and radio there, and then now it's just been reading as much as I can and watching as much as I can, because anyone can learn anywhere. You don't have to go to film school. You don't have to, know someone, or just read. It's out there. Learn and watch, and, studying character perspectives, you guys know it too, because you know people, right? So when you're watching something on the screen, trust your instinct. Trust the people you know and how they're putting them on screen. So speaking of how we're putting things on screen, my biggest complaint of the whole series was I take a huge issue to accents dropping in and out. And that was happening in part 3, right? And I think there's a lot of debate right now about the lead actress in 1 and 3, Kiana Madeira, who plays Dina and plays Sarah Fear. I think she has raw talent, but there's potential to get better. I think she struggled in parts. I think she really struggled with the accent coming in and out. And when you're the lead, you got to land that. You're the quarterback here, of the whole film. It sets the tone. And I mentioned, I don't know if anyone else noticed this. Please let me know if you noticed this in the last film. But when they come back to 1994, and she's driving with her brother, and she's like wiping her nose, I was so shocked they kept that in, because we knew her nose was bleeding. It wasn't bleeding at that moment. And it was so distracting. It's like one of those no-nos, in film. So I thought that was interesting, and I'm not blaming the actress for that. That could just be something. What did you think to the accents in the Leon? I know what you're trying to say. So I know you didn't finish your sentence, but I know what you're trying to say. What do I think of the accents? So everyone was saying they're like Irish accents. I was saying they're Yorkshire accents. But the reason everyone's like confused is because they're not really any accents. There's just a lot of dropping in and out. Some actors and actresses did a really good job. But like I said, it's really important for the lead to keep it consistent and get it down. You watch a movie like The Witch, The Crucible, no one's dropping accents. Like, that's why Anya Taylor-Joy is a different level, though, too. You know what I mean? Daniel Day-Lewis, like Winona Ryder. These are, like, top tier. And these are young actors and actresses are watching. They have, potential to only get better. A lot of them did really good, but like I said, the standout of this series was Emily Rudd. Emily Rudd, who was the star of the second one, which really helped, was because she was like taking that movie over. It was a committed performance. So again, I'm gonna stop with the sports analogies, but I'm not, because films too, their lead is like the quarterback. It sets the tone. If you have like a lead who's just mailing it in or kind of half doing a job of it, it's going to affect the whole movie and the whole cast. So that's why I think number 2 was so powerful, because Emily Rudd did such a good job, not breaking, but going the next level. You could just tell. Like I said, it was also a great physical performance, and the moment she was on screen, you were kind of like taken in and you forget you're watching a movie. Where the problem with the third film is, because everyone's dropping accents, you remember you're watching a movie. You remember this was on a set. And people on Twitter, I saw that passionately defend anything. They're like, oh, but it's not that big of a deal if you understand what they're saying. No, it is a big deal, because it's the same as if you can't get accents down right, it's the same as if you had on the production design in 1666, oh, there's just a car with an engine right there. It would take you out of it because it's not realistic. It's not putting you in the moment. To keep someone in the moment as a viewer, everything's got to be tight there in the time and the place. That's costume, production, and they did have costume down. They did have production design. It was just the accents, and it's so important. And I feel like there had to be something going on where you kind of have to rush, because they're releasing 3 films really quick. It's not like one's coming out every 2 years. So I applaud that. I think it's cool they're doing that, but it's definitely got to be more challenging. And I think they filmed 1666 second, and I think that they had made the decision that we were going to use the same actors from 94, not, use the actual actors you saw in the flashbacks of Sarah Fear, but use, Dina. But I just think maybe with the time constraints, they couldn't make sure everyone had this accent down. And that's what frustrated me. Like I had said, I think Ben Flores is a good actor. I thought he was great in Your Honor. But he only has a couple lines in this movie as Henry. And he can't do the accent. Come on. It's 5 lines. Sit down with someone that day. Get it perfect, So that's where, as a viewer, you get annoyed, because you're like, this is the product I'm watching. I want top quality. But anyway, so guys, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you actually liked number 3, because I know a lot of people did. I just wasn't crazy about it. And that's another point I made. I think what would have set this trilogy to the next level is if they had someone besides Ashley Zuckerman, who is a decent actor, but a more known name play that role of Nick Good, and someone who could handle the 1666 part, because that's where I thought Ashley Zuckerman was good as Sheriff Good, but I did not think he was great as his character here in 1666. I think it was just a different level of acting needed, and he wasn't hitting it. He just wasn't, and he was another one dropping out of accent. So I'm going to shut up about the accents now, because I can feel the energy that people are like, oh, this guy's just going on and on about this. But I think that what's interesting is, if you didn't know, the director, Lee, is actually married to a Duffer brother from Stranger Things, Duffer Brothers, who showrun Stranger Things, created Stranger Things. So you see the connection. You got Sadie here, you got Maya Hawke, and you also have the mall. It's definitely the Starcourt Mall from Stranger Things Season 3, right? So it's you feel that, and you really feel the Stranger Things vibe at the end of 3. And I did like Act 2 of 3. I did think it was fun. I think it paid off a lot of things the whole trilogy had. And I do think they did a really good job at the gay representation in this trilogy. And I think when I interviewed Olivia Welch, she mentioned about that relationship, that what she liked about it was they didn't make it the main point. They made it this is normal love. This is a loving relationship. And they didn't make it oh, just so you know, they're gay, everyone look, they're gay. They made it no, this is a normal thing that the movie accepts, that people need to accept. And that was really cool. I like that she said that, because I totally agree. I think it was just awesome that it was treated like any other relationship in film, which I really like. Okay, let me just see. What was that comment someone... Chrissy, man, Stranger Things 3 was so good. It really was. Okay, Griffin, here we go. I love 66. Sarah's stories just resonated with me more than 1974 and 1994. So when you say Sarah's story, you're talking, you really I did like Sarah's story, Sarah Fear, but you didn't, did Dina's story resonate with you? That's what I'm curious about. Because that's where I feel with 2, I thought that the sister story was stronger. I thought because in a movie it had its payoff by the end of it and the struggle they had, and I really thought it hit well with the separation of their parents and that they had separated in a sense their relationship, but at the end when they were getting stabbed, I thought that was a beautiful scene, and they were like never again. And like I said, it's like a Haunting of Hill House piano playing. I thought that was really, really well done, and it was like not terrifying, but it was intense. And that score, man, the score in all three of these films was incredible. And yeah, if someone could help me out with the name of the composers, I know he's a famous composer, he's done other horror films, but that was just spectacular score that carried a lot of these movies. So what I do think was strange about it all, though, was that we didn't, I don't know if it felt totally R.L. Stine, like from other R.L. Stine stuff I watched even as a kid or books I read. I didn't read Fear Street, so I don't have much to say on that, but yeah, it didn't feel so R.L. Stine-like, and I can't even put my thumb on why. I wonder if anyone else feels that way, but I actually forgot, he was even involved or that was like his story, but it felt obviously more Netflixy and Stranger Things like, but yeah, I mean, I think that it really resonated with a lot of people. Okay, he says, okay, this guy, Leon, you like Benjamin Flores. I think Benjamin Flores is good, I think he can obviously improve, but I think he's good, and if you like him, watch him in Your Honor. He's really good. Chrissy, man, remember those horrifying Goosebumps pillows Mom got us? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I remember, if any of you have read any I don't know if it was Goosebumps, but it was R.L. Stine wrote books where you pick where you go the next chapter, and one with clowns chasing you. That was terrifying. Okay. Gemin G. So, I'm butchering your name, but, man, when you do this in the iPad, I think Part 1 did a great job at saying the basis of the story. Part 2 did a really good job at the gore and action. Part 3 did an amazing job at resolution. It has less of the gore, which I like. Okay, so I do agree that the resolution was good in Part 3. I wish there was still, not gore, but I thought there'd be more horror to it because it had that genre it was aiming at. When you do that olden time and you have witches involved, I think you need a little more horror than just one scene. And even with Pastor Miller, I want a little more of that. A little more of what's the deal with Pastor Miller, because he in that story is the main, killer, the shady side killer of that time. But, again, it was tough because really Part 3 is like 2 movies in one. So they kind of also felt like they had to move a little quicker through 1666 compared to where 1978 can hang around the whole movie there, So that was interesting. What did you guys think of the twist here with Gillian Jacobs being actually Sadie Sink and Ziggy? I thought that worked well because you thought Emily Rudd, to me, the whole time was her. But I'm still confused at why she was C. Berman. We know her name was Christine, but I felt like that was just written to make the trick happen. So I'm curious what you guys think of that twist because some people loved it, some people did not. But I'm also wondering, who'd you watch this with? Like, you watch this alone, friends? Is your family into it? What's, like, the age range here of stuff like this? I always think it's interesting because something like this, it's advertised still as R, but it's, like, labeled even on Netflix like teen, right? I always thought she was Ziggy. Okay. So was Stranger Things. But then Stranger Things eventually got so big and accepted that eventually everyone loves it. It's same kind of like you could say with the It movies where, it's all kids starring in it, but it's rated R, and I wish this was as good as It in doing that, and it wasn't, but it was still good. But it wasn't like with It, all the performances across the board are amazing of the kids, and also the cursing works and the jokes land. Griffin figured the twist halfway through. I didn't get why they did it though, other than just have a twist. I agree with that a little bit. Okay, hold on. So we got someone who was 19 who watched it. See, but I watched it with my girlfriend. We were 30. Our families watched it too. Okay, that's good to hear. So it is going. That's successful. That it's going other, different ages. As you see, my finger trying to get the chat to come back up. It's so tough because I like doing it on the iPad, but it doesn't have as great functions as the laptop. And once again, I'm drinking water like. I think it was Marco Rubio. I gotta stop doing that. And that's my dog, Daisy. You guys know her. She's barking. She's getting her thoughts in. So I'm wearing this new shirt. I hope you like it. Um, and yeah, I mean, look. So I also wonder. No, stay hydrated. My sister says, "See, she's my coach. She knows because my voice is already giving out, but she's gonna say it's because I'm not speaking from my diaphragm, and she's right." Um, yeah. So anyway, so I got okay. I saw this alone. I tried getting my sister to watch, but she doesn't like horror movies. But I think she'll really like this trilogy. Yeah, and I don't think they're that scary. So like, I think you can really show anyone whoever's not like a horror fan can jump in, and I think that what's interesting is you always pay attention to who's writing each film, and clearly, I thought there's each one's written by the director of Lee Yenyik, but she's got the same writing partner for 94, 90, and 66, and added another one on 1666, but she had a different one for 78. And I think whatever that writer was contributing, I'll never know, but it had payoffs for everything, and everything had a purpose in it, which the other two didn't to me. So there is something there. Like, you got to pay attention to who's writing on what, because you'll notice little patterns in how they write, the style, but what they value in a script too. Now, I think it sucks that Kate is dead because she's like the fan favorite, so then like you have the one film with her and then she's gone, and she's in 3 but she's not really Kate. So I wonder how they can maybe do this. I think they should do part 4 in anthology style by leaving the main story we have from this trilogy, doing the killer like Milkman its own story, and then using the same cast but playing different characters. So we can have, it's not going to be Kate, but have Julia Raywald come back and write up some new characters without worrying having to connect to the main plot. I think because they wrapped up this plot, they wrapped up the story, with Sam and Dina and their relationship and everything going on Shady Side, and they did set up that they would continue it because you're like, who took that book? But I think they can get away from using the same characters. But what are your thoughts on who took the book? I mean, I think it's either Mayor Good, the brother of Sheriff Good, or there's Amy V. How you doing, Amy? Hi, Steve. I've been on the fence about watching this, so thank you. Amy, what's keeping you on the fence? Why aren't you going over the fence? I think that it's either Mayor Good or the girl that is from Josh's chat room that appears at the end. I still have a theory it might be her. I think that'd be kind of cool because she knows about all this stuff, and I thought it'd be interesting. One thing I thought about, did Nick made Tommy Slater the killer in 1978? Was he already involved in this age, or what maybe is his father? Nick made Tommy Slater the killer in 98. That is in 78. That is correct. They show that in the sequence when they're listing off the names. They show Nick at that time in like the black hood, and he curses that Tommy Slater be the killer. That's why, though, I wanted to see why he would, jump to keep doing this like his family tree. Because we already got kind of, to know Nick in that film, and we kind of missed that whole time period between him and to the sheriff, because they kind of just used it for a twist, where it was given such good character attention in the second film. What do you guys think of the cast? I'm curious who your favorite actors were. I wonder if it would work by having just standalone movies to see more of the killers as well as another trilogy separately. Yeah, I wonder. And it's going to be tough because they're going to obviously put the Fear Street name on it to keep it going, but I don't know. I get nervous when you see a 4, right? Like anything that's a 4 in a storyline, one main story, can be too long. Rather be separate start. I love me some HS, but I don't know why, but I think knowing Steve's reviewing is enough to jump in. Hell yeah. Yeah, is anyone actually watching American Horror Stories that came out? It's kind of getting overshadowed by Fear Street. So Netflix is winning the horror summer here because I've made my complaints about FX before, and I'll say it again. But they don't send screeners, man. They don't want to promote anything they do. I think my favorite performance was Emily Rudd as Cindy and Leanna. Kiana Madre also does a great job with the characters. I agree. Uh-oh. There she is. RJ's here. Hey, you. That's one of my great friends. Yeah, so... Hey, RJ, you watched all these films, so you got to sound off here, too, what your thoughts are on all of them. Because we kind of disagreed a bit on some, and definitely agreed the second one was the best. Just titled Fear Street, subtitle Part 1. I like that. Um, yeah, but I think that it's gonna be. It's so weird because I also try to look at it as like comparing it to shows where when you see the Netflix top 10, movies don't really. Oh wait, hold on. I think you were a little harsh on part one of the third one. See, but you and me had a different opinion on that where you know I saw it reversed, or I thought part two of the third one was better than part one. But I do see what a lot of people are saying, like RJ's saying, where she thinks, part one was actually better than part two of the third one. And it is true because they're like two separate movies. But I did like that twist. I did like they twisted it back to 1994 part two, and they kept that under wraps really well. Um, so yeah, I think that Netflix has the top 10, right? And then it's weird because movies don't really, I don't think a lot of the time jump up in the top 10 far. Like you'll see, I was surprised Fear Street only hit like 3 or 5 in the main top 10. But I think that's also because shows like Manifest, they hang around because you're watching so many episodes. So the algorithm's picking up a lot of people watching it because you keep watching it. You watch a movie once, you get rid of it. So it doesn't actually stay there for a while. And that's what's also interesting is they've built now this excited fan base of these films. And it's weird though because like not like a show, there's not like season 2 next, and then even when you go on the Reddit, like it's kind of over. So that's the weird thing about when you have such like a popular trilogy. That's why I think it's essential they quickly try to get out these like kind of next films or spin-offs, at least something. They could even try to do a show about Fear Street. That might not be a crazy idea either, because then they can kind of take that fan base and grow it. And Netflix, again, they want any hits they can get, anything that brings attention in. But it was funny. I did these interviews I'm really proud of with the cast, and I try. A lot of people are like, interview Kiana, interview Kiana. I really tried, and I really tried to get Emily Rudd as well. I was this close to getting Kiana, and Emily Rudd, I had no chance. I don't know why, but I couldn't get her. But I was really excited to talk to Kate Julia Raywald. Please check out my interview. Ryan Simpkins, who plays Alice. They do a great, great interview as well, just like Julia did. And, of course, McCabe Sly plays Tommy Slater. Great interview, and he was great in 1666 as well. But the big interview is coming out with Olivia Scott Welch tomorrow. I hope the next ones are like the second movie. I like that it was a 3-part thing. Yeah, I hope the next ones are too. And like I was saying, I hope, the next ones they do like The Milkman, or, just a story about one killer, and they just have the same actors and, one story for the whole movie. I think that'd just be a better idea, because then you could also drag it out if you do another trilogy. But yeah, I think I've got most of my points across that I've had to say about these films. I do hope. Oh, by the way, does anyone agree with me that in number 2, that young Nick Good looks like Justin Theroux, not Ashley Zuckerman? I thought like they definitely didn't see the resemblance there. You got to get a little closer. Am I crazy? Am I seeing things? Yeah, Chrissy, that's true with American Horror Story. They're never going to stop. And that's what's funny about the American Horror Story. This American Horror Stories is like, every episode's a different story now. And it's so weird. They just decide not to really promote it anymore. And like I said, FX is really weird about shows. Like, it's impossible to get screeners from them. But what happens? See, they might think they're too good for it and they don't want to send it to a YouTuber. But you know what happens is then all these YouTubers are talking about Fear Street. And you know what? People watch these YouTubers. And I don't think it's smart in any way to do that. Wow, Rachel, you never watched AHS. Maybe I will now. I mean, watch season 1 for sure, but then everything gets a little sketchy. You gotta be careful. It's a lot of time. But yeah, and speaking of horror, I wonder if you guys are gonna see this movie Old by M. Night Shyamalan. Yeah, I didn't see a resemblance between young and adult Nick Good. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, true. I didn't even know there was a new HS season out. Yeah, so if you're horror fans, clearly, yeah, I'm interested to see if M. Night Shyamalan will stick the landing with this movie Old. Trailer looks like it's going to be good or it could be horrible. Yeah, they gave YouTubers screeners for Fear Street later, not right away, because I felt like they weren't confident in them at first. And then they slowly started giving them out when they saw the social media reactions are good. And like I said, not going to name names, but certain Rotten Tomatoes critics, they love everything. Everything. Like, so they know they're going to give them to them first to make it look good. I mean, it's getting ridiculous. I think every movie on Rotten Tomatoes is like a 90 right now. Like, everything. Because it's not what it was. It's not like just critics anymore. It's just people who react and praise everything. They're just fans, And RJ knows who I'm talking about. So I wonder too, like, what it's tough too when anything comes out, because there's two types of viewers. There's ones that are passionate and they find something they love, but then they'll never admit when something's wrong with it. And then there's people who review bomb and ruin it for someone like me, because I'm trying to just unbiasedly review everything. And then there's people, though, like you'll see a lot on IMDb, like user reviews that are just completely racist, and they just give everything a 1 because it's woke, they'll say. And it makes, like, me look bad, because then if I give something a bad review, they're like, oh, it's because he doesn't agree with politics. It's like, it has nothing to do with that, So there's like a balance here. We need to hit like a middle, because like there's people who are just so extreme with that, where they just thumbs down anything that's political. And then there's people who love everything, and they just like, oh, I loved it. I love this. Is so much fun. Like, blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to ignore that the accents were atrocious in the third film because I decided to, So, yeah. But I was going on that rant, too, about, like, it is a little strange, like, the church and state thing, where it's like, I do reviews, and it's like, they cross paths, but I try to separate it. And I think, like, what's up, Movie Files? Hey, check out Movie Files reviews. They're great. How's it going, Steve? Speaking of American Horror Stories, did you watch, what did I think of the first 2 episodes? Well, Movie Files, I was just going on a rant about how it's, like, impossible to get screeners from FX, on Hulu or FX in general, because they're manning it, and I haven't seen them. I know they're out, but I get bitter about it. But let me know, Movie Files, did you get screeners for that? Ryan Seacrest did a great job with Alice, because at the beginning, they was a bit annoying, but by the end of the movie, you understand her and her motives. Yeah, that was another good written character, was Alice. Like, and again, like I said, across the board in 1978, the characters are just written solid. But it's funny, this is like a Fear Street stream, and now we're talking American Horror Stories. It's a good topic, because they're like competing with each other right now in like the summer horror kind of area. I like they're doing more summer horror stuff. You even see like when Midsummer came out, again, I got that new poster. Check it out, I love it. But I love that film, but that works, because like summer horror is, to me, just as exciting as like Halloween time, because I know a lot of people are waiting for Halloween time, and it's smart that Fear Street released when it did, because we got Midnight Mass from Mike Flanagan. That's definitely done being edited by now, so they're saving that clearly for Halloween time, so you don't want to release both of your horror projects for the year at the same time. But yeah, back to what I was saying about interviews, though, it's tricky, because then, like, some of these people I become friends with, and because especially if you interview them a couple times, more than once, and they're really nice, and it's great talking with them, and then it's like awkward, because I still do reviews, so it's like they're going to see if I give a film I interviewed them about a bad review, or if a good review, it's fine, but I have to stay honest. I'm not going to sell my soul. You guys come first. You're the subscribers, the audience, all about the audience, right? That's what reviews are for. There's no bias. And but I think it's cool. I think it's cool you can talk about it as adults, and I would think that they would want me to be honest, right? Because like if I was just praising everything they did, would it mean anything if I liked anything they did then, or is it just phony, So, but I think it's really cool the director followed me, because I wasn't even following her, and she followed me on Instagram, so I don't know if she watched my reviews, probably interviews, I don't know. 80 days till October, okay. Movie Files. I didn't get screeners because I think you said FX seems to never give screeners. First episode was very mediocre at best, in my opinion, but I'll give it 3 chances. Yeah, it's funny, Movie Files. Like, I just don't get it. Like, I was saying, the reason everyone's talking about Fear Street is like, they at least gave screeners out. People were watching it, talking about it, and then Netflix is smart like that. And just in general, across the board, Netflix has become, they didn't used to be like this, but they've given screeners out. Like, if you wanted to do this, it wouldn't be too hard for you to eventually get up to be able to get some screeners, especially for stuff they really want to promote. And they know that's smart because it gets people talking about it, or something like FX, they're kind of dinosaurs about it. And I just don't get the strategy. Because then if the strategy is not to get spoilers, right? Maybe like American Horror Story seems like, oh, we don't want people spoiling it. No one's talking about it, so it's like no one's going to spoil it. And it's even the way, I remember when American Horror Story Cult came out, and I was even doing reviews for that, and even some top critics that wrote articles for it, they're like, well, we don't have any new images this week of the show, so I'm just going to have to keep showing images from episode 1. Like, they didn't even send critics the screenshots. So, like, what's going on here? You know, it just doesn't make sense to me. But maybe I'm crazy. Yeah, Netflix is great at promoting their stuff, for sure. And Netflix is interesting. They give a lot of hints, you know, when they're not confident in something. Telltale sign is they don't make any social media accounts for something before it comes out. And that's why I believe they weren't confident in Fear Street at first, because there still isn't a social media account, but I think they're surprised now seeing everyone really embracing the films and just everything around them. So that will change. But you saw Jupiter's Legacy. They didn't really promote. They didn't make a social media account. It got canceled. But that's not going to happen with Fear Street. It's a hit. Hi, Steve. Sorry I'm late. It's okay, Sabrina. How you been? Sabrina, let me know your thoughts about Fear Street. I'm really jealous of people. If any of you guys from LA, they get all the pop-ups. You know, New York gets some. But LA's gets this whole Fear Street store. It's like a video store. My friend Alex lives out there. He said he went. I was just jealous. I was like, man, that's so cool. And, you know, it's interesting. Like, I've never myself been to a critics showing where you go to the theater and watching. It's always been digital. And that's also part because, like, when I was getting a lot of screeners, it's during COVID. So I actually have the chance to go see Old in the city at a screening, but I don't feel like going there, so I'm trying to get a link. I think they're going to send me a link still, but I just don't feel like traveling. Based on Fear Street week to week, would you like to see other strategy adaptations for this? Movie Files, that's a great question, man. Yes. I am a fan. I've said this, and I'll say this. I want Netflix. People are going to hate me for this. I want Netflix to do week to week. I want The Witcher. I want Stranger Things to be week to week. I want people to talk about it. I want it to bring hype, especially a show like Stranger Things. But I feel like Netflix, this will only help them. I know it's going to piss off people who believe and are diehard Netflix bingers. I think you should still have stuff to binge, but the big projects, I think, should be week to week because it's only strategically good for them. Because if there's someone who's like, I only get Netflix for Stranger Things or The Witcher, you know, they have to keep it for 3 months instead of 1 month. And, you know, that just gets them more money. But also, I think it comes an event, and I think people like that. Look how successful it's been with Disney+. I mean, if it was like Loki came out in a week, the whole thing, we talk about Loki, we're over Loki. You know, it consumed the media landscape for 6 weeks, and everyone was trying to get in through that. Sabrina, good. Thanks. I really enjoyed it. Agree with all your reviews. I thought 1 was the weakest. I enjoyed 3, mostly the second half. Week to week, it's great for publicity. It keeps people talking about it. But what do you guys think week to week is watching in Movie Files? What do you think? What's your thoughts on that? But the difference here with Fear Street is that it's not a show, right? So I think it's cool that it's movies that we're getting like back to back to back. Where, like I said, you're usually waiting 2 years for the next one. So it's kind of a cool experiment, and that's I think the best thing you can say about these films. And a credit to the director. Oh my God, yeah, Movie Files. Imagine weekly discussions for something like Stranger Things. It would be smart, yeah. And honestly, Movie Files, it helps you and me, right? You know, we could do episode recaps, which we both, I think, love to do. It only helps us. Because from our perspective, right, they released a whole series. It's like, some of those episodes are amazing, and you really just want to talk about that episode, but then it's like, people watch whole things. It never happened. The discussion for episode, let's say, 5 of Haunting Hill House never really got to happen because everyone finished 8, you know? So it needs its moment. Some of these things are brilliant that need to be talked about and focused on. So, I don't know. Netflix, if you're watching, hear me out. But Fear Street, the most impressive thing Fear Street did. Yeah, John Wick and New One every month, that would be awesome. Fear Street was able to do 3 movies, and they were all quality at least, right? And they all had a cohesive story. So even if that was, you know, one of those movies every 2 years, I would believe it. I'd say, okay, that was given that time. For them to pull that off and all have release in the same month, it's incredible. So it's like a really big accomplishment, and I'm impressed they did that. And they're setting the stage, I think, for that now. And that Netflix, this was like a test for Netflix. Like, should we do this again? Should we have just a trilogy release at once? I think it's really cool. I think, and it works like if shows were doing that. So they already do it with reality shows on Netflix, and it obviously makes sense with reality shows because they can get people, you know, week to week talking about what's going to happen. It's kind of weird to binge a new reality show, you know, but we'll see. Where the hell is Stranger Things 4 is the main question. Where is that show? You know, it was funny. I think it was a slip up. Hey, Don, I watched all 3 and loved all of them. Don, how you doing? See, Don, 666. There you go. 1666. Must have been your favorite. And thanks for the badge. Movie Files. It's interesting because I don't watch these shows, but doesn't Netflix release their reality dating shows week to week? Maybe they're testing the idea. Yes, correct. So we'll see. Maybe that is the test. But they are releasing them week to week. But yeah, I think that, you know, Fear Street, what's interesting about Fear Street, why do you think Netflix was hesitant about this trilogy would do it? Is more the slasher team, the LGBTQ plus team it has. I think they were hesitant about the quality of them. That's what I think. I think the way they put the embargoes for them were tight. So I was like, okay, they're not very confident in this. So, you know, that's why I think they were hesitant. And then they saw the great reaction the first one got. We're like, okay. And then 2, and then you saw they released the embargo earlier for 3. So I think the people who are higher up at Netflix that kind of look at a finished product and then kind of predict how it's going to react, and should they take the risk of people reviewing it early, or are they going to deter people from watching it? They did a little risk, and then it actually was people encouraging you to watch it. So they're like, oh, okay. Because like I said, they didn't make a social media account for it, which was surprising. But then out of nowhere, once they saw the good reaction of the first film, they're just promoting it on Netflix Geeked, Netflix Film, all these different Netflix, social media channels. So the key to see what Netflix believes in and most likely won't cancel is just looking at their social media accounts. What are they pushing and what are they not talking about? You know, there's someone up there transferring information, social media team. There's all these decisions have a reason. So what was clever about Fear Street was having Sadie Sink in one, because Sadie Sink is a huge audience, and that's from being in Stranger Things. And it's this smart thing that Netflix does, and HBO does it now as well, where they bring same actors from different projects and put them on the poster to get you in. Same thing they did, though. Okay, so Sadie Sink was awesome because we got a full movie of her, and she did her thing. They cheated her on the third one. They obviously knew what they were doing at the end of the second one to have her teased like she was going to be a big part of the third one. Barrett was useless in the movie. Third movie, she's just there to bring viewers, right? Then the first film had Maya Hawke in it. Maya Hawke was the main pull on the trailer for the first trailer for this series, which was so smart. But she's only in one scene, So I think that upset a couple Maya Hawke fans because she's blowing up. I'm sure Maya Hawke is super busy, so maybe they couldn't get her for a full movie. I'm happy they got one full movie out of Sadie Sink because she's probably also very busy. What was interesting, speaking of Sadie Sink and Stranger Things, when I interviewed McCabe Salai, who plays Tommy Slater, I think it was something he said incorrectly, but he said he was at with Gillian Jacobs' The Stranger Things 4 premiere. I think he meant 3, because I don't think 4 is out. So the question is, where is Stranger Things 4? Like Drew Barrymore in Scream. Wait, what do you mean by that? I would love to see a series with 1 hour-long episodes in each killer and the story behind it and what caused the goods to pick them. That's a great idea. That is a great idea. Yeah. I mean, look, like I'm saying, they set up so well some lore here, this world building of these killers. We're all curious about these killers now. Dawn, haha, 6 is always my lucky number, but does match with the series, huh? Sorry I'm late if this has already been asked. Based on it, do you think there's going to be more Fear Street? It was already asked, but I'm going to say it again. Yes, there definitely is going to be more Fear Street. It's a hit in terms of Netflix. Yes, give me the milkman. After seeing what Lee Jenick did with the Tom's characters, Jason from Friday the 13th, I would love for her to helm a Friday the 13th revival. Yes, she did a great job directing. I agree, Movie Files. And like I said, she knows how to do slasher sequences. She's great at suspense. However, I was a little disappointed. She hasn't really proved to me that she could do like the horror like in 3. Like I thought she did a good sequence in the church, but she could have brought more. And I think that will come with her. But she's already proven she can do slasher. She can build suspense. I agree with you. She should do some of these bigger franchises. I think she's only going to get more work. She's a talent. It said me that the hand was used as an important device, but it was so silly how her hand came off. Yes, Daniel. I had someone had commented. I think it might have been Daniel. Someone commented on my review that like the hand was a little silly, how it just came off, and it was silly that Dina didn't react more to her hand coming off. 1994 opening was a homage to Scream's opening scene, yes, with Drew Barrymore. They had a lot of those throws to these like famous movies. I thought that was really cool, but it wasn't a crutch, which was good. I also think that I love the kill. Speaking of good kills too, man. Like, besides obviously the bread slicer is the best. If you have any argument against that, you're wrong. Okay, you can bring it down if you want, but bread slicer kill was absolutely incredible. The director already knows where she wants to take the series. If Netflix greenlit it, would get in 2 years, I'd say. Yeah, that sounds right. And I did read an article. They said it would be in like 2 years, which kind of sucks. I want it quicker. What up from South, Steve? Hello. Hello, the South. How you doing? But, yeah, I mean, I think that the best kill is in 7. The best kill was the bread slicer, but taking that away, 78, I love the kill when he hits that guy above the toilet, slashes his head off. I think his name was Gary. That was great. And again, I don't think 2 or 1 held back in the terms of gore and suspense, but I do think 3 did. Now, you know, I'm just like, I'm wondering too, you guys who watch this stuff, how quickly do you watch these Netflix drops? Do you have time? Oh yeah, movie files. The accents were not great. That was a big, you know, and I said this earlier in this, that the accents in part 3, it really takes me out of it. And I value that. Like I said, it's just as important in production or costume design. That, you know, like it's like if you threw in like a flat screen TV on the set, it would completely take you out of it. You have to stay in your character and your accent. It just reminds people that you're acting and that you're watching a movie. It's so important. So I just got annoyed that even some critics I really, you know, respect just ignored this and they downplayed it. But it's like, oh no, it's so important. So it has to have a big change in the score. It has to. And that's my belief. If the accents were good, what would you ever get in the third movie? If the accents were good, what would you ever get in the third movie? I'm going to try to understand that. RJ, clarify. The kid with the bat, I want a movie with him. Yes, Daniel, he is the coolest killer to me. I cannot wait. I hope they got to do, especially that whole sequence they did with the milkman. I forget the name of the guy who has like the Sandman, you know, mask on, and the kid with the bat. Like, it looks so awesome. What would they have rated? Yeah, I'm horrible at accents, so I don't take it away from my enjoyment when I'm watching something and they aren't the best. That's just different for me because, like, again, I have to feel like when I'm watching something, I'm there, I'm in it, I'm not watching a movie. Oh yeah, I like that they killed off main characters too, and that's what I praised about the first film, was that the shock value, because I did not think that Kate's head was gonna go through that bread slicer. Like, and same with Simon when he got the axe to the head, because you were like, wow, like you got attached to these characters. They got a lot of screen time. And you're like, oh, someone's going to come in right before her head goes under. And then when it went under, it was like, what? Like, I hadn't been shocked in a movie like that in a long time. And that wasn't like, it's different with twist shocks. That wasn't a twist. That was just like, they did it. Like, which was cool. I thought that was unique. I really don't go out of my way to watch them. The series interested me, so I watched the first one right away on a Saturday. Now, but here, if you don't go out of your way to watch something, right? What are you worried about spoilers? Because I feel this pressure, even though I get screeners, I feel a pressure to like, oh my god, I gotta watch this now, or I'm gonna get spoiled. I get spoiled by everything. Like, meaning, even like with Loki, I'm not gonna spoil it here, but like when a new episode comes out, I'll just open Twitter. It's not even that I look up the hashtag, it's that you see what's trending, and then it has like a character that appears in the episode is trending that morning. It's the worst. Yeah, and the kids in part 2 they killed, you're right. That was also, you know, I like that they're not afraid to do that. I watched all 3 in one night, breaking in between to watch each with your reviews. Thank you for watching my reviews. Spoiler director said in an interview that the characters that died in season 6 go to live in the other films, and the characters that survived season 6 were killed in the others. I thought it was funny. Well, it was crazy. I agree that this was going to be a teen movie. All the blows, a nice surprise. If I'm excited, I'll watch it right away. Okay. I agree with all these statements. But yeah, I think, can anyone argue that the fan favorite isn't Kate? Because she clearly is. Like, So they got to figure out a way how to get her into another film, and they can because they can. They're already done in 6066 where they do, you know, play different characters, anthology. Predictability is not bad. It's execution that matters for me. True, true. And I thought they executed well. I thought with things like that. With the good reveal, what was his plans to continue the family tradition since he didn't have kids? Hard to believe his brother wasn't aware of evil doings. I think his brother was aware. I think Mayor Good's the one probably taking the book in that mid-credit scene. Or like I said, that girl who's from the chat room. Okay, DJ Raz, I wait for it to be night to watch them. Okay, okay. That makes sense. I try to too. It's silly to watch a horror movie in the middle of the day, for sure. But yeah, that was another thing about Nick Good I thought was strange. Like, he had such good character development in the second film, and then when we get the twist about him, it works. But I need something to explain more about like why he was just like down with his family tree and what they do. It was just like every good. It was like, all right, I'm doing it. There's no like resistance. So we didn't really get to see that character we met in 2, how he responded to that. It's just revealed he was the one who, you know, caused Tommy Slater to be the killer. And like I said, I wish he had a moment with Ziggy in the last film. A little more dialogue. They had like one little moment, but we needed more. Amy B is 48 and watched alone. Love it. Sabrina, I agree, underdeveloped character. Yeah, you know, he was like developed in the second one, but it like switched. Yeah, the mayor became just the chasing villain in the third film. I mean the sheriff. But yeah, they set up Mayor Good for something. He's not just in there for nothing. So I'm sure he's going to be a big part of whatever comes next. I wonder what R.L. Stine thinks of these movies. I know he did some interviews for it, but I'm always curious about that. He seems like a, you know, R.L. Stine. Yeah, so my ranking, you guys already know, but I would say 2 is out of this world, 1's okay, and 3 wasn't great. But it seems like people are interchanging 1 and 3. I guess that's preference. But like I said, it's important who your lead is. You know, it's the quarterback here. And I think Kiana is a good actress. I don't think she's great, but that can come. You know, I think, you know, that there's so much potential in her. But I think Emily Rudd's already there, you know, and I think that's a big difference here in just having a strong lead. And it helps that Sadie Sink was in the second one, too, because she's great. I don't like the character of Simon. I know a lot of people do, I think, but ooh, I just thought it was very forced comic relief character. And that, you know, if you have a comic relief, every line is a joke. It's like, okay, you know, then it's just a character. It's like just a character type, but nothing to it. And that was my problem with character of Josh, where he was just, you know, the book nerd solving everything. Just want a little more, you know, depth to it. And that was weird, like I said. I think that in the third film, they have, you know, Sam and Dina, who are Hannah and Sarah Fear, have these moments with their fathers. And we learn more about that. And that adds depth to them. And I just wish to reflect that. We got a little of Sam in the first one with her mom like that, but especially with our main character, Dina, we just needed, she talked about her father, you know, being this alcoholic. Show us that, because I think it works so well in a movie like It, with, forgetting her name, but the redhead, it just need that little meat. I would love whoever took the book in the end of the third movie was Nick's brother, because I'm sure when Dean was talking about it, he said, yeah, it probably is. If someone made a deal for immortality, why not have him be a reincarnation of himself? And what's up with the nosebleeds? You know, it's funny, like, RJ, you're saying 1994 is least favorite. I think the consensus agrees with you, because if you look at IMDb, the user review score is like 6.2, so it's pretty low. It looks like 2 and 3, same range for most people. But I would say, from reading people's reactions, I'm right there. Like, most people think 2's the best. I think that we could say is consensus. But with the nosebleeds, yeah, there's a couple nosebleeds here. I had made, you know, the joke and point before, I thought it was so strange when Dina was just rubbing her nose in the car. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that in a movie. Yeah, why do we never meet Dina and Josh Dad 94? I have no idea. There was this, I think what they were trying to go for is not showing parents, but then they kind of do. So it was like, well, what are we doing here? If we're going to show Sam's mom, let's see Dina's dad, damn it. Um, yeah, I just think that, did anyone here like the character Simon? I thought the sheriff was going to be an immortal Solomon who just reinvented himself every so many years. He had the factors. I'm not doing this on an iPad again because you know what? The chat just disappears. It just goes so fast. And even when I press it to keep it, it eventually goes away again. But, I thought they did good, story here with Sam and Dina as lovers. I thought that really paid off. And it looked like it had a big effect on people watching, that they really liked it. And there was obviously chemistry there. And, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens next. And I think that, Fear Street is one of those things that I think it didn't hit its full potential. Like, the sky was the limit for something like this. Again, it being rated R, coming from R.L. Stine. But I didn't think it was bad. I thought it was a success story. And that, again, it's so impressive to me. They did 3 films back to back to back like that, and them all be of quality. So, and I think this director is going to be, a big director in Lee. She's talented, clearly. So I think that's what's exciting about it. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up because we've hit about, an hour or so. But thank you everyone who came. I really appreciate it. I got a big interview with Olivia Scott Welch, who plays Sam, and Hannah. She's back on the show for a second time. It's a really fun time. That comes out tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern time, so make sure to check that out. I'm going to be doing more of these. It depends on what I'm reviewing, but I'm excited, to do more of these Let's Talk series. This is the first one where I'm reviewing stuff, so this is a chance for you guys to give me your thoughts. And you can leave comments on this video still, and I'll go back and answer them. 666 was Christina's least fave. Best was 978, agreed. 1 and 2 good. They could have done something else at 3. Yeah, guys, give me your last thoughts real quick. I'll read some off. Just give me anything you got to say about Fear Street. Your number one things before I go. I'll react, read some, do like a speed round. But I'll be doing more of these Let's Talk series, depending on what I'm reviewing. So, for example, I'm doing 9 Perfect Strangers on Hulu in the summer. It's going to be a big focus of mine. But then maybe halfway through the season we'll do one of these. Then the end of the season, so we can kind of just discuss. Because it really worked well with Handmaid's Tale. Trying to bring it over here. My audience, I feel like, is all over the place. Like, it's hard for me to get, Handmaid's viewers to Fear Street, or Fear Street back to Handmaid's Tale, I want it back. More Free Streets, says Dawn. Agree. Love to see one more, but don't milk it. Agree with that as well. I def hope there's more, says Sabrina. What else, guys? What's your thoughts? Favorite character, least favorite character? Who's the best actor? Least favorite actor? Favorite killer? Least favorite killer? Give it to me. Pop them in. But, yeah, I'm excited. I think that Netflix is doing the right thing here. And, they got a lot of good stuff coming out. HBO's got a lot of stuff coming out. Now I'm just blabbling about nothing. 3rd was my fave. I lost interest when I was first watching the first. The 2nd was really good. Okay. Yeah, so thank you for joining me on this Sunday. I hope you have a wonderful Sunday, and thank you for all your support. I love any support I can get. You can become a member. That has exclusive live streams just for members. And, yeah, and thank you so much, and I hope to talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day.